Good evening. The Board of Zoning Appeals for May 13th, 2020 is now in session. I'd like to introduce my board. To the far left is Skip Sweeney and Brandon Dines. I'm Ivan Koletic. And Chris Gerald to my right and Blair Hamilton to my far right. And then Heather Freeman, our zoning inspector, is in the audience. Under the voice of council, we ask that anyone speaking tonight, they must be sworn in. So if you plan on speaking, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God. If so, say I do. All right, thank you. Please be seated. This evening, when presenting your case or commenting, come to the microphone and state your name and address, and also confirm that you've been sworn in. Heather, were the legal notices published in a timely manner?
Yes, they were.
All right, thank you. We have old business first. We have one item, appeal number 2018-41, Mr. Randy Viviani of 7757 Concord LLC. They have requested that this gets tabled again. It's been on old business for a while, and we'll continue to stay tabled. Correct. Next is the new business. First is variance number 202058, Paul C. and Maria J. Lazuka, requesting a variance from section 31.04B1, which requires permanent in-ground pools to be enclosed on the property by a fence not less than 4 feet in height to prevent access to the pool except through a controlled point, section 31.04B2, which requires doors and gates to be equipped with suitable locking devices to prevent unauthorized access, and section 31.044B4, which states that the pool cover is not considered a suitable alternative to an enclosure requirements for the property located at 12863 Girdle Road, permanent parcel number 08-A-A-00-A-00-020. Somebody please come up and present the case.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Glenn Forbes, and I'm the attorney for the applicants, Paul C. and Maria Lazuka. But there are 3 pieces, I think, to this presentation. The first piece is that the ordinance is obviously in place for safety, and the system that they have on their pool, the Safety 3 automatic pool cover, is incredibly safe. In fact, I will argue that it's safer than a fence. The second point to be considered by the board is that this area is sparsely populated. This is not a situation where you've got a neighborhood and a whole bunch of kids. Thirdly, the neighbors are in favor of this, and I've submitted their letters. This property has a neighbor on either side and a park across the street. So there's really hardly ever anybody around. So turning to the first point, certainly the applicants want safety too. They have little kids, and if you have the pictures in front of you, you will see them, and I'll ask Ms. Freeman to play a video. This system it almost makes the pool like a waterbed, and you'll see that in the video. The reason I say it's safer than a fence is that this is not like an ordinary pool cover. This is not like where a child, and we all know how ingenious children are, can get over the fence, undo the lock, do whatever, and if they get in the pool with a regular everyday pool cover, they're at the bottom real quick. But this is specifically designed for safety, and it protects whoever would be there for whatever reason. Now, these people that market the Safety 3 automatic pool cover, as part of their marketing, say there's never been an accident, there's never been a problem. Well, I'm kind of suspicious, so I did a nationwide search on CaseMaker, the Ohio State Bar Association's case reporting service, and I found no cases in any state, anywhere in the union, regarding this automatic pool cover or the company that makes it as a defendant. If you look at the specifications, which I've given to you, you'll see, and we acknowledge, that this system requires maintenance. And the last picture in your packet, if I'm remembering correctly, shows a pump. It's an automatic pump that pumps the water out whenever there's water that would tend to weight down this cover. And whenever there's a threat of rain, that pumps out there. And I think you also have a picture of what looks kind of like a wall with an electrical outlet on it. That's the system that drives the pump. In addition to that, the applicants maintain two services to keep this maintained. There's a service called High Tech, which comes out and opens and closes the pool every year. And they're familiar with this system and they check it. Every other week, a representative of Lily's Pools comes out. And certainly, they make sure the chlorine is right. But they also make sure that this pool cover is doing its job. And I almost hesitate to call it a pool cover because it's not what you think of as a pool cover. The pictures that you have will show that this is a rural area. This is not a neighborhood where there are kids running around all the time. And there is also a picture there of the children of the applicants on the pool cover. And if Ms. Freeman would put it on, I'd like to play a video to show how this pool cover operates. As you can see, there's 3 children on that pool cover, climbing in and out. It really operates almost like a waterbed, and that's because of the way it's constructed. As I look at that, I don't think that anybody could get hurt. They'd have to really try. They'd have to bang their head against the side of the pool or something. And again, that's different than what a normal pool cover does. Normal pool cover is just to keep heat in the pool, and it collapses as soon as somebody gets on it. Here we've got a little guy walking across the pool, climbing up on the diving board. So because of that, the safety has been established. There does not seem to be an issue that this is unsafe. And as I said before, I think it's safer than a fence. Nobody can climb it, nobody can jimmy the lock. And as I said before, this is not a neighborhood, this is not a place where you've got a lot of kids. Now I know that there would be some speculation that maybe somebody was in the park and would go across the street and get in trouble. But I think as the video shows, you can't get in trouble. And beyond that, it hasn't happened. Finally, the neighbors are in favor. You've got the letters in front of you. And I know that, and you probably have figured it out too, that Walter Lazuka and his wife are relatives. They're Paul's parents. But I don't know that that taints their support for this, because if anybody thought that their grandchildren were in any danger, that they wouldn't be supporting this. Now, I mentioned to both Paul and Maria and Walter that if they would call in, they could be recognized when there's comments from the public. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer it. Otherwise, that's the end of my presentation.
Does anyone from the board have any questions?
I do,
Go ahead.
if no one else does. So,
go.
Mr. Forbes, this cover needs to be manually deployed, does it not?
Manually, what?
Manually deployed.
Yes.
Someone has to actually physically do something to make this cover the pool.
It's flip a switch.
Yes. And likewise, it has to be rolled up again manually, right?
Flip switch.
So is that switch safety protected? Is there any way for anyone else to flip that switch?
My understanding, and if Paul is on the line, I'll have him indicate it to the board. My understanding is that switch is safety protected, because as you saw in the video, there's 3 little kids, and it would not be wise to have that switch available.
So your understanding would be that there's some kind of keypad or code or something that's
Correct.
must be used.
And again, if Mr. Lazuka's on the line, and I hope he is, he can explain that to you better.
And then second question, you did mention the pump, because the pool will collect water on top.
Correct.
A few inches of a puddle is enough for an infant to drown in. That pump has to be manually deployed also.
No, it has to be, when the cover goes back on, it has to be placed. But it's automatic.
But
Once-
somebody has to place it there.
Somebody has to place it there, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not home, it rains, I got water on my pool, how does that pump get out?
As a matter of fact, when I was talking to Mr. and Mrs. Lazuka, they watch the weather. And whenever there's a threat of rain, it's out there. In fact, as a practical matter, unless it's, there's no threat of rain, every time the cover goes back on, the pump goes out.
So there's human intervention
There is.
required. Again, you gave us the owner's manual for the cover. And I read on page 5, I don't know if you want to read this to the board or not, or have me read it, but the second paragraph on page 5, under pool safety, says cover pools recommends layers, in quotes, of protection. Your cover is a reliable layer, however, you should not rely on any one layer to be fail-proof. They further go on to say, don't rely on one system. Layering, in quotes, pool cover, fence, alarm, etc., end quote, safety precautions provides the strongest safeguard. Now, would you not think that the zoning that is in place because of those statements from the manufacturer of the cover itself?
Well, and as a matter of fact, if you're reading what I think you're reading, that statement is required by the federal government. And certainly, in anything in life, you can triple, quadruple, and quintuple safety measures. But especially based on the video and based on the pictures, the situation we have there, as I said before, is safer than a fence, because somebody gets on there, they're not going anywhere.
safer than a fence. A closed, locked fence that some child is going to be able to breach to get in the pool.
Correct. There are all sorts of legal cases running around of children being able to get over a fence or around a fence or through a fence.
So it seems to me there's quite a bit of vigilance involved with this cover when it's in the open position. It would require that somebody is constantly watching the pool to make sure that nobody wanders into it.
Well, and in this situation, certainly when the applicant's children are out there, they're out there.
Correct.
And so when the pool is done with its uses, then flip the switch and the cover goes over.
So we should take on faith that a nice day in the summer, you have your pool open, kids come out, they use it, they get tired, they leave, they go off to do something else. I'm always going to cover that pool at that point,
Well,
instead of leaving it open.
well, Mr. and Mrs. Lazuka are always out there with it. So, I mean, to the extent you take the position that you take on faith that once the kids are done with it, the parents close it up, well, yeah, but they do.
Okay. All right, I think I'm done.
I just to add what on the, I saw that on page 5 as well, Blair. Also on page 5, towards the bottom of the first column, says enclose the pool with a barrier. In fact, fencing may be required in certain areas. Check your local zoning codes to restate that instructions. I do. Blair had a question. I want to give Mr. Lazuka, if he's on the phone, the ability to answer that question. Brandon, real quick. Mr. Lazuka, are you on the phone?
I have a question. I want to give Mr. Lazuka the ability to answer that question. Mr. Lazuka, on the phone? I am.
He's watching on YouTube.
Yeah, just turn
You have to
Yeah,
ask
turn
him
the
to
TV
turn his TV down, yeah.
And if everyone on the phone can lower their volume or mute their TV or YouTube channel that they're watching, we're getting feedback. Sure. Mr. Lazuka, are you still there?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
So the question, Blair, is in regards to the switch for the pool and where is that located and how that is controlled?
Correct.
Sure. Yeah, the automatic safety cover is situated on the house about 5 feet.
You might want to hold on for a second, Mr.
Okay.
Lazuka.
What's that?
He needs to be sworn in. Maybe Stephanie can help facilitate that.
Oh,
If she's still on the line,
yeah,
or at least identify that he has been. Has he presented?
yeah. Mr. Lazuka, we do have to swear you in because I don't believe you were on the line when we swore in everybody that was speaking tonight. So can you just,
Correct.
so let me just swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God. If so, say I do.
I do.
All right, thank you. Sorry, sir. Go ahead. That's
So
correct.
you're
You're-
asking for the
Hold on one second, just a moment.
regarding the
For the record, can you state your name and address for the record?
sure, Paul C. Lazuka, 12863 Girdle Road, Concord, Ohio 44077.
Okay, we can go forward now. Thank you, Brandon.
The switch for the automatic safety cover is what you're asking for, correct?
Correct.
That's situated roughly 5 feet above the ground, and it is controlled through a key that my wife and I use. That is not in possession of the children at all. And when I say that, it's kept in a distance that, or a height that they cannot reach. In fact, it can't even be kept in the keyhole for a lengthy period of time. So we take it out and we stick it in our key box.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Blair? Does that answer it?
Thanks.
Yep. Brendan has a few questions.
Okay, Mr. Lazuka and Mr. Forbes. First, Mr. Forbes, thank you very much for a very concise presentation. I'm interested in why you won't put up a fence. Is it the cost, or is there some other reason? Is the topography of the land prohibitive, or why not put up a fence?
Well, I think Glenn Forbes said it best. We're across from Girdle Road Reservation, and which, as you know, is roughly 1,100 acres. And we don't live in a development, so there's no homes. You know, we just don't live in a summer wood or a hunt club, and we don't get any other kids on our property other than our home. And as Mr. Forbes said, when our kids are out there, we're watching them. And if we do have a gathering, we are always out there. There's plenty of adults watching. And obviously, as you heard Mr. Forbes say, my parents live on the eastern side of us, and the Condons, and I think you have that letter from the Condons, live on the western portion of us. And you can read what they've said as well.
I appreciate that. I guess my question in part is, as the Concord Board of Zoning Appeals, we're tasked with protecting the neighborhood, the other residents, and if your parents were to sell their home, or somebody else, the Condons were to sell their home, or if they had guests over there, invitees to their home or otherwise, or even at your house. While I understand and appreciate your diligence and certainly everything you do to protect your own children, I'm sure you're very vigilant about that. I think that where I struggle is understanding why a fence doesn't go up, and if those houses sell, or if someone else does wander on the property, which happens, what protections are afforded them? And I think maybe there's another part of that, is how do you, when the cover itself, we know is all completely subject to human human mechanical abilities to put it out and release it and so on and so forth. If you're not home, are you able to do that with a switch? Or if you leave and it's open, there's a variety of circumstances I think we can all certainly appreciate. And I'm not simply trying to be argumentative here, but I think there are so many factors. I'm interested to hear from you and Mr. Forbes how we're going to address those, and how we as a Board of Zoning Appeals overcome those in light of our statute, which indicates that in fact you must have a fence and that a cover is not sufficient with that.
Sure, and I understand. So I guess at that point it comes down to you just taking my word for it, that we are very, very, very strict with that cover. So I understand, you know, if you were to know me personally, I'm extremely strict about this. And I know that may not come into play, but that cover is always on. If there is no one out there, that cover is on. And it may be your word against mine or anything, and I understand you're not being argumentative. You're just questioning. And that's how we get to know each other here. So that, I mean, it's just always on. I mean, I guess you could always argue a hot tub. Say you had a hot tub. Do you put a
Well, I think
in a hot tub,
I appreciate that.
So do you put
Mr.
a fence
Lazuka?
around the pond? Do you put a fence around just a hot tub? So, and we have covers on both. So, and they're always on. If we're not using it, they are on. And I think you saw in that video the structure of this cover it's extremely strong. And I understand where you're coming from as well. Say you left and it was off. But it just, in our circumstance, just us personally, that doesn't happen ever.
Well-
The pool is within view of, we have plenty of windows in the back, and we know when it's on and off. And if there are people out there, it's open, and if there is no one out there, it's closed. And also, obviously, you heard Mr. Forbes, like I said, regarding the neighbors. And we just don't live in that type of environment that lends to having people around, like people wandering over. And I understand if neighbors moved out and stuff, but we're very, very vigilant on keeping that shut.
Okay, thank you.
And may I add, cost is a factor. It's very expensive to put up that kind of fence on that piece of land.
I understand, Mr. Lezuka, I understand. I have a pool, I have 3 young children, I have a fence, and I have a cover. And I'm not suggesting because I have that you should, but I think that we have a a tough way here as a Board of Zoning Appeals overcoming that. And I appreciate your word, and I appreciate that we don't know each other, and I'd like to trust you. I know your lawyer very well, and he's remarkably capable and competent, has a stellar reputation. I consider him a friend. So I appreciate all that, but I think we have a very difficult task here that I'm trying to understand and wrap my head around. So thank you.
Mr. Lezuka, I saw in the manual that the operation of the pool requires a PIN number. Is that correct?
Incorrect. A VIN number, you said?
A PIN number, a code that you would have to enter in order
no,
to
it's-
operate it.
It's a key. So, you're saying the automatic pool cover, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a key.
Okay.
You can opt for the VIN number as well, but we don't have that. We have the key. So you have to physically stick a key into a hole, the keyhole 5 feet above the ground to actually turn it to either cover or uncover.
But you and your wife are the only ones that have access to the key, correct?
I'm sorry. Yeah, my wife and I are the only ones with access. Yep. There is no. There are 2 sets of keys. One is put in storage, and the other one is in our key box.
Thank you.
Anything else, Chris?
No.
Skip, do you have any questions? You're good? Anything else? You good?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
You can be seated.
Thank you. I don't know if Mr. Walter Lezuka wants to speak.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask if there's anyone
Okay.
else. So really quick, I'm just gonna, even though I'm sure no one else, but I'm gonna ask if anyone in the room is here to speak, wants to speak for or against this appeal. Okay, just want to make sure, give everyone the chance. So then, is there anyone else on the phone that would like to speak for the appeal?
Let me see 1 second. I got to step away from the computer.
Just gonna ask maybe one more time if there's anyone on the phone that would like to speak for the appeal.
Yes, this is Walter Lezuka.
Hey Walter, can you state your address for the record?
Yes, Walter Lezuka.
And your address, sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
We need your address for the record.
12897 Girdle Road.
And were you sworn in earlier?
I don't believe so.
Okay, can you please raise your right hand? I'm gonna swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God? If so, say I do.
I do.
All right, thank you. You're sworn in. Please go ahead and state anything you want for the testimony for or against the appeal.
Well, as Glenn said earlier, I'm Paul's father. I live to the east of his property, right next door. And I've been to their house quite a few times. being there so close just to visit them and their grandchildren. But I've actually seen the grandchildren on the cover itself. And as the video, I was watching your video there, the video shows I felt very comfortable with them. I've never seen a cover like that before. And it seems to be, and they're my grandchildren. I love them very much, and I'd say something to somebody, especially the parents there, if I felt that there was something unsafe about that. I happen to agree that a fence is not necessary. If you saw the layout of the land here, we're really in the woods here, semi-rural part of Concord here. I'm just looking at it now. Across the street is the Girdle Road Reservation, and you don't see anybody there except once in a while they're in there on the paths there, the people that come to visit the park, but they never come across the street here, and we've never had anybody come from there. And on the other side of Paul and Masha are the Condons. They don't have any children. I think they have one older child there, but he's never been here. So it's really not a suburban type situation here. It's very rural. We had a family doing here the other day, and when they were opening it up, and all the family was here, and the kids were swimming in there, and there was never once, and I was sitting there watching. As I said earlier, and I just can't say it enough times, I love my grandchildren very much, as many people, grandparents do, and I just want to let you know that I don't see the need for a fence here. But once again, I don't know if you have any questions you'd like to ask.
Anyone have anything else? No, I think we're all set. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye. Is there anyone else on the phone that's speaking for this appeal? Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak against the appeal?
Hi, yes. This is Maria Lazuka, Paul's wife.
Oh, okay. Hi, Maria.
I just wanted to call in and
I'm sorry.
thank you for your time.
Maria, I'm sorry, but I'm guessing I gotta swear you in?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God? If so, say I do.
I do.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
So I guess first and foremost, I wanted to thank you for your time. I do want to add that being an ER nurse for UH at Geauga, I know and I've seen firsthand the dangers of water swimming, and I understand water safety, obviously. But I remember and I recall around this time, every single year for the past few years, famous skier, Bodie Miller, he comes out and talks about how they lost their child, and it is an extremely sad story. And the main thing that he discusses is how a door was left unlatched and how that child got through that unlocked door and was able to get into the uncovered pool and drown. And we obviously want to avoid that 100%. That is why we installed this cover. That is why it is always shut when we're not in use. And that is why we are 100% responsible. We understand the dangers. We understand what safety is. And it is extremely important to have the safety cover. When you have access, when someone gets into a fenced-in pool deck, they have 100% exposure. A child can get through a latch, can climb over a fence, they can get into an open pool and drown. If a child walks onto our property, there's absolutely no way they could have access to the water at all. We have a 2-year-old, and we understand what it's like. Our 2-year-old rides her scooter, her bike, her whatever she has around the pool because it is that safe. So we understand the dangers, and we also understand the safety. So I really ask for your consideration on this matter. It is very important, and I feel like this is the time to maybe upgrade and understand how these covers are truly a safe aspect in the situation. So again, if that latch, I couldn't even imagine falling asleep at night knowing that my pool had no cover on it and I only had a fence. That is just the scariest thing to me. The fact that we have this auto cover and there's absolutely no access to our water unless Paul and I are there is the most amazing thing. So I ask you for you to keep that, in your mind, and to understand how important the safety cover is and how a fence doesn't even mean anything in the situation, really. So thank you for your time again.
Thank you. Any questions from there? Okay, we're good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right. So if there's no further questions, the public hearing for appeal number 202058 is now closed to the public. Can I get a motion? Okay. We're gonna, hold on. Do we have to motion each one of these, or do we have to motion each, because we have to vote on these separately? So do I need a motion just to approve this variance and to second it, and then just the whole thing, and then we can have a discussion to the board? And just when I call the vote, right, I have to break it into three, correct?
Three separate motions.
Three separate motions, okay. All right, we'll just talk about it all at once though.
Yeah.
Okay, so the board understands, and this just came up tonight, we have to vote on this in three separate votes. One for section 31.04 for the fence variance, one for section 31.04B2 for the gate, and then one for 31.04B4 for the use of a cover, okay? So, but we can discuss it as a board, I think, all at once, and then we'll have to call a vote for each one of those and vote for them that way, okay? Make sense to everybody? Kind of makes sense to me. So I will entertain a motion to approve variance number 2020-58, requesting a variance from section 31.04B1.
So moved.
Second.
Open for discussion on the board. Again, we'll discuss all three of the variance requests. Go for it.
So, okay. We already have a motion in second, so okay, that's fine. We're just discussing, as the variance applies to section 31.04B1, which requires permanent in-ground pools to be enclosed on the property by a fence not less than 4 feet, correct? We're not discussing the secondary elements of 3104B2 or B4 at this time.
We're talking about all of them at once, and then we'll vote on them individually.
I would move that we would, okay.
Is that,
I mean, it makes sense to talk about them all at once.
Yeah.
It's,
so how about if I put forward the
Stephanie,
motion?
go ahead.
Yeah. Stephanie unfortunately had to leave the call. She did tell me that we do need to vote on it individually, and maybe we do need to discuss that individually as well.
I just don't think it makes sense, but.
I don't either.
Okay. All right, well,
What do
No, wait,
you
wait, Mr.
lawyers
Chairman.
think?
Are we open for discussion on the motion as to variance 2020.58, section, as it applies to section 3104B1?
B1.
This time.
I'm gonna assume, Brendan, that after we talk about B1, when we get to the other ones, there won't require much.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Okay, so who would like to start the discussion on B1? Anybody? I can start. I'm fine to start. I'm with Brendan. What I heard Brendan said, I'm having a hard time with this. And I think it wouldn't hurt for us to look at the Duncan factors, maybe as a group, and kind of go through them. Maybe that'll help people make their decision. I'm open for that. I have not heard a reason that, I haven't heard anything that would say that we should approve this at this point. I haven't heard what the difficulty here is in this matter. What I've heard is that a lot of people don't live in this neighborhood, and that the cover is very safe, which I don't disagree with, that the cover is very safe. But I haven't heard a reason why a fence couldn't be installed with a pool cover.
Well, I tend to agree with you. I think it's important, and again, I respect everything that Mr. Forbes and Lazukas are saying, and I appreciate what they're saying. I think it's really important to look at Duncan factor number 6 in and of itself, to the exclusion of the others. It tells us clearly, can the problem be resolved by other means? It can be resolved by a fence, and I think what's telling about that is the initial plans for the pool that they put in. They didn't purchase a property like this, and they didn't get it this way without a knowledge when they put it in. Their plans indicated they were also installing a fence, and a separate contractor was doing that, but then the fence was never put in. I don't see a hardship there. I see it's a matter of convenience or cost to them, and a cost savings. And I struggle with it. I really struggle with it because our text is so specific about this, and it's very clear what we can do. And look, I get it. As I mentioned, and it's not about me. I have a pool. I have 3 kids. I put a fence around. I put locks. I put alarms on my fence. I have a cover. I did everything I could, and I appreciate what the Lazukas are doing. I'm sure they're wonderful people, and I'm sure they're very, very concerned about their children. My concern, that's great. Nobody wants anything to happen to anybody. My concern, though, is if another child comes over to a neighboring property, if someone wanders over, as we noted, or someone just gets there, or because this has one key that we've been told the other one's locked up, and the one key, if that key is misplaced, or how do they control this if they're away from home and they forget to close it? How does that happen? I understand they have relatives next door, but how does that happen in an immediate sense to protect anybody else from that? And I think that's our charge. That's our charge from our text. And I think that we bear that responsibility. And I think, as you noted, again, with all due respect to them, I haven't heard anything that says, you know, this is why we can't do it. We can't put up a fence. And the Duncan factor, I mean, look, I'd love to try to find a way to understand this a little bit better. And if I'm missing something, I'm open to that from anybody. But I guess I really struggle with this one. And again, you know, next door neighbor's house sells, and Mr. Lazuka, Walter next door, he sells and someone else moved in, then what? You know, we still have that element there.
And yeah, and like you said, number 5, you know, did the property owner purchase property knowing they knew that there was a restriction? They had a plan in place at some point to put in fencing. The other one is the very insubstantial. Yes, I'd call it substantial. They're not modifying a fence, they're just no fence at all. So I would consider it a substantial, you know, variance request too. Skip.
Well, you guys have said it. I don't feel that. You know me. I'm a Duncan standard applier, and I don't believe any of the standards were met in this case. Unfortunately, I'm sure that the Lazukas are concerned about safety, and that's really not the issue here. Of course, they'd be concerned about safety. We don't doubt that, but rarely do we have an answer to our question provided within the zoning code itself. I mean, it states a swimming pool cover is not considered a suitable alternative. And I know we're discussing B1, but I can't separate that. You know, and in this day and age of I understand, you know, we live in a rural area, and Girdle Road is getting even more rural as it moves out. In this day and age of play dates with kids, there's more kids coming over than sometimes normally would come from a neighborhood. And it really isn't, it's, you know, people think they're going to be safe, and they have all intentions of being safe, and we understand that. But I've had personal experience with drownings and litigation, and the reasons and the causes and the liabilities, and it's tragic. And I can tell you from numerous situations that drownings occur due to the best of circumstances, and and you cannot have enough safety. You cannot. It cannot be done. And what happens is the child that usually dies literally is unaccounted for 30 seconds or a minute. And next thing you know, they're in the pool. I've seen it over and over and over again. And it's just tragic, it's terrible, and I would never want that to happen. But there's a reason, and I think Brandon stated that one of our goals, one of our rules, or one of our duties here is safety. And I don't think we address safety very often in a lot of these variances. We don't really give it a thought because there really isn't any safety issue, so to speak. And I feel on extra duty in this case.
Well, I can certainly appreciate what everybody is saying. I can certainly appreciate the safety aspects of the code. But there are situations, and while we're charged to execute and enforce the resolution, there are situations that are extenuating in different circumstances. In this particular case, we do have a pool cover manual that stipulates additional safety measures, and of course they're going to say that. As Mr. Forbes pointed out, it is mandated by the federal government. We know that the government, just watch a pharmaceutical commercial. I mean, with all of the side effects that they have to mention, we know all that. So that's that. The second thing is they're on 7 acres. This is not a development. It's highly unlikely that kids are going to wander in from the park or from an adjacent property and jump into their pool. The third thing is that with the code, technologies have advanced. This is obviously a very, very safe pool cover. There's no question. I mean, we see it. We saw the video, saw the kids jumping on it. And it probably is safer than a fence. And I say that because I have an above ground pool and I'm not required to have a fence. And I live in a development. And you can't tell me that some curious child could wander into my yard. I have many kids living around. They could pull a yard chair up and get into that pool. So why do we allow an above ground pool owner that follows the resolution to not have a fence? Why don't we fence all of the ponds in the parks? I mean, here we have 7 acres, we have an extremely safe, great technology that makes it very safe. We have parents who are obviously very involved. They are the only ones that have the key. The grandparents live next door. Brandon, I appreciate you saying that, if somebody else moves in, but these are different circumstances. So I would just suggest and urge my fellow board members to consider these factors. I mean, and these are parents. I mean, good Lord, we have to have the government save us all from ourselves. These are parents who are watching their children. They are not going to let anyone wander in. They are keeping it closed. They are going to do everything that they possibly can. I would contest that this pool cover is safer than a fence. They are on a very large property, and I don't have to have a fence. So explain. It's not correlating, and there's always instances in our resolution when we have to consider other things. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
I agree with everything Ms. Gerald said. I think she makes incredible points. I think the issue, however, is that it's not up to us. It's up to the zoning commission to decide what it is. We are strictly limited to what the text says and what the Duncan factors say. And with applying those two things, we don't have any leeway. When we do that with area variances and other things, it's a completely different topic. But if the zoning commission decides they want to fence in ponds, they want to fence in above ground pools, they want to fence in rural pools, hot tubs, all those other things, rivers, whatever it is, that's the zoning commission. We're not in that position to change the rules. We're in the position to apply them as they are to the applicants before us. And we do that by employing the Duncan factors as indicated to us by the Supreme Court of Ohio. I have no ill will towards the Lazukas. Nothing. Mr. Forbes is highly respected. He's a friend of mine. And Ms. Gerald, the same thing with you, and I agree with everything you're saying. I personally, as I sit here, as I want to find a way to make this happen for these people, I don't see it, and nothing has persuaded me when I look at the text and I look at the Duncan factors and I look at the circumstances, and no one has said to me, we can't put up a fence because we didn't know we needed a fence. They knew it was on their plans. We can't put up a fence because we can't afford a fence. We can't put up a fence because no contractor will put up a fence. We can't put up a fence because the topography of the land prohibits putting up a fence. None of those things have been brought to our attention. And without that, I will say it a million times, I respect them. I am confident they are vigilant and they love their children and never want anything to happen. There's no question about that. But that's not why we're here, and we don't have the ability to rewrite the text. We have the ability to grant a variance if in fact we are persuaded by all those factors that allow us to do that within our discretion. I don't see it.
Final word?
Yeah, always fine.
So, Mr. Dines, you have expressed my sentiments, and I really don't think I have anything to add.
Okay. Okay, so if there's no further discussion from the board, the question then is on approval of variance number.
I have one more thing to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, go for it.
I think also, and
after
forgive
that,
me,
I thought you were
that was
done.
terribly rude, but I think it's important to note too, if we do this for them, like we do with anything else in the community, every circumstance is different, and, right? Every case you read in law school, and everything you take it as those facts are, and you apply the law to them as they are. They're all different. But this is one that's pretty hard then if we say, okay, this is acceptable for you. Everybody else is gonna say, oh, well, I love my children, I have this cover. Until the zoning commission tells us we're gonna change this text, and until they dictate that to Ms. Freeman or the trustees, whoever comes about and says, this is what we're gonna do because we realize these things are out there now that make this safer and we don't need the fencing requirement we have, until that happens, I don't think we have any other opportunity, and I think we put ourselves in this community in a very, very precarious position for everyone else who comes before us and says, we're gonna give my plans to the zoning department, it's gonna say there's a fence, and it's gonna say there's a contractor doing it, but I'm not really gonna do it. If the zoning department catches me, I'm gonna ask for a variance because the Board of Zoning Appeals will give those out in spite of what the text says. I think that's a very difficult and slippery slope for us to go down. I'm sorry, that was my final thought.
The original plans they had may not even have had this type of pool cover, so changes do happen. I appreciate, all the Duncan factors. I don't think that you can answer them all affirmatively. I think it's probably half and half. I know what we're charged with, but I'm still, area variance or not, I'm still going to look at it based on the circumstances as well. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we would require that.
Anyone else, anything else, Dan? There, you're still good? Okay. All right, then, the question is an approval of variance number 2020-58 for variance from section 31.04B1. A yes vote is for the approval of the variance, a no vote denies the variance. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Dines?
No.
Ms. Gerald?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Mr. Hamilton?
No.
And Mr. Valente?
No. The variance for 31.04B1 has been denied. Okay, next I will entertain a motion for variance number 202058 for section 31.04. Can I get a motion, please? Oh, I'm sorry, 31.04B2. So we need a motion, and then I need a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
I think you should read that, B2.
What's it?
I would read the text after B2.
Oh, so for B2 requires doors and gates to be equipped with suitable locking devices to prevent authorized access. So this variance is for the gates and doors with the authorized access only. Any discussion from the board? None? We'll call for a vote for variance number 202058, section 31.04B2, which requires doors and gates to be equipped with suitable locking devices to prevent authorized access. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Hamilton?
No.
Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Mr. Dines?
No.
Ms. Gerald?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentick?
No. That variance has been denied as well. So, next, I'd like to have a motion for variance 2020-58 for 31.04B4, which states that a swimming pool cover is not considered a suitable alternative to the enclosure requirements. Could I get a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Heather, I'm gonna, so next is the vote. So approval for variance number 2020-58 from 31.04B4, which states that a swimming pool cover is not considered suitable alternative to the enclosure requirements. Call the vote.
Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Mr. Hamilton?
No.
Ms. Gerald?
Yes.
Mr. Dines?
No.
And Mr. Valentick?
No. Okay, unfortunately, that one has also been denied. Thank you, Mr. Forbes, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Lazuka for getting on the line and being patient with us this evening.
Just, finish.
No, that's it.
I just had a comment. Looking at myself on the screen makes me know that the salons have been closed for a long time. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. So next on our agenda is variance number 2020-59. Mr. Martin Cruz is requesting a variance from section 15.03A6, table 15.03-1, to allow for the construction of accessory building to be 1,200 square feet in lieu of the maximum 1,024 square feet permitted for lots less than 2 acres for the property located at 8485 Painesville Warren Road, current permanent parcel number 08-A-011-0-00-023-0. Mr. Cruz, please come up and present your case. Just, and also, just as a reminder, state your name and your address and confirm you've been sworn in.
Okay, Martin Cruz, 8485 Painesville Warren Road. And I'm here today
And
just...
you've been sworn in, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm here to ask for a variance for our property of, I think it's 176 square foot. We bought the house in November, and we moved out to this area basically for a specific fact to get a smaller house and a larger lot so we can build an outbuilding. Because I like to do crafts, my wife does craft, do the antiques, I like this stuff. Plus we got a couple old cars we want to store. So the whole purpose of moving out here was to build this building. And we found a nice lot, two 1 acre lots there on Painesville Warren Road. Sounded like a perfect match. But once we got in, we found out there's an easement and there's a certain amount back from the road. So instead of having 2 acres, I got 1.9, 1.8, something like that, just technically. So,
According to what? Because it says 2 acres on the auditor's site.
yeah, according to the zoning department.
The
So,
0.14 acres is the right-of-way. Why are we saying that he only has 1.86 acres when he has 2 acres?
The zoning resolution defines lot as exclusive of the portion of the road right away. So if you look at our definition of lot, it does not include that portion. in the
Okay,
roadway.
so he's paying taxes on 2 acres.
I don't know anything about taxes.
paying a tax on 2 acres. So what we did, we found out that with this lot, you couldn't build an outbuilding on a single lot. With this lot, they come to, I combined both lots, made one lot, 2 acre lot. So, so what the plan was is, just to build this building on the extra lot there. And, we're gonna build the building pretty much just like the house. I don't want a pole barn, I don't want a barn. I want a house with vinyl siding that matches the house, the shingles, the same style. Everything will look nice. It'll be a real asset to the community. And the lot we're at, we're not in a housing development. So I understand, ordinances and stuff like that, and most of them will protect neighborhoods and different things like this. But if you look at the picture on the lot, we got trees all the way around the lots. We can't see none of our neighbors. And we're back from the road far enough, the side easements, everything's within the zoning requirements whatsoever. I didn't ask any of the neighbors for any kind of information. We've only lived there, what, a couple months? I've only met the one neighbor in the back, and he told me yesterday he got a letter, and he says he has no problem whatsoever with this. So, you know, it did have, since it's got 2 lots, it's got an extra driveway on it that came back about 30 feet. So now I got 2 driveways to the lot. So this second drive that was already there is gonna go to the garage. We're gonna put in a, you know, new driveway back to the garage and stuff like that. So we have the extra parking and everything like that. And basically, look at some of the information about the safety issues on this. I mean, my other driveway's so small, you couldn't get nothing in there to begin with. This gives us an extra drive. If we got to pull anybody in or anything like this from a safety issue, it will really make quite a difference. And I think it'd be an asset to the community. And like I say, we're not in a housing development. We're on Route 86. Can't see none of our neighbors, and it's, we're so close to 2 acres. Basically, we're paying taxes on 2 acres of property. And I know in the zoning thing, if you got 2 acres, you're able to build up to 1,500 square feet. I don't want 1,500 square feet. I just want a nice little garage for my 2 cars, a nice little work area so I can do my antiques and this kind of stuff. So, that's pretty much, you know, my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions, but like I say, we got the area that we're in. We're not trying to, you know, circumvent any of the laws or any ordinance or stuff like that. We got a legitimate 2 acres that I'm paying taxes on. And basically, it's gonna, just, you put this building on there, my taxes are going up anyway, because the appraisal value of the house is gonna go up. And so I don't, you know, I didn't think it was too much of a problem. Hopefully the zoning board will see it the same way, so.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Cruz?
One question. It states to us that when you build this, if it's approved, you're gonna tear down the existing shed.
Oh, yeah,
Can you
and that's one of the
confirm that
other
for us?
reasons, you know, I'm gonna lose probably about over 100 square foot of shed space right there. And where am I gonna put all the tractors? It's, you know, it's gotta go someplace, so.
That's all I have.
Skip?
Mr. Cruz, thanks. Mr. Cruz,
Yes.
who owns the property behind you?
You know, all I know is Bill and Barbara. I don't even know their last name. Bill's the one I talked to the other day. Like I said, I've only lived there 2 months actually, so I don't know.
Is there a house back there?
Yeah, you can't hardly see it. As the way the property's set up, I don't know if you've ever know the property. I mean, I got woods on one side, woods on the tree lines on both sides. When the foliage comes out, I don't even know I have neighbors. So it's just totally private.
All right, so you got a flag lot behind you, right?
Yes.
And then you've got one, looks like you have a flag lot next to you too.
2 of it, 2 flag lots, one goes one way, one goes behind my house, and one goes behind somebody's property next to us there.
Okay, thank you.
Lawyer, Chris, do you have any questions for Mr. Cruz?
I just have one curiosity to settle. You don't have a detailed drawing of the building, what it's gonna look like, but you show the pitch on the roof here.
Yeah.
And where this door is actually notched back.
Yeah, if you look at the prints on the building, you got a 20 by 24 foot garage, and then you're gonna have an apron that comes out.
So my curiosity is that pitched roof gonna cover that notched back area?
Well, the
or how
pitched
you-
roof is gonna cover over the garage, and you're gonna have like a little area there, like concrete.
That'll be covered.
That'll be covered.
I got you, okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be a solid roof all the way back, one
Got it.
solid roof,
Right.
and then you'll just have that 20-foot by 6-foot concrete slab that you put, sit down underneath a chair or something like that if you want to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I tried to find pictures or, you know, drawings of what I wanted to do, but I couldn't really find anything that really matches, you know, how I wanted to present it, so I did the best I could. So.
Okay, well, appreciate it. Anyone? Board's good. Yeah, you can be seated. Just checking if there's anyone else in the room that's here to speak for or against this appeal. Heather, do we have anyone on the phone still?
There are a couple of people on the phone, I don't know if they're here for this case.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a neighbor, Lonjati.
Okay. Have you been?
Just a question.
Hold
I'm
on.
on Rio Vista on the corner, so I'm probably the closest to the house.
Sir,
This is just for a variance.
Sir,
Hey, sir, just one second. We need,
Within-
excuse me, we need to make sure you can be sworn in before you talk to us and we find out, get your address, okay?
Okay?
Okay.
So please raise your right hand. And do you swear that the
Okay.
testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God, if so say I do.
All of the
I do.
adjacent
Okay,
properties get
now
noticed.
state your name and address for the record.
Name is J. Douglas Wanjani.
Address. What's your address, sir?
6429 Rio Vista Drive, Concord Township,
Okay.
44077.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Just a question. So if Mr. Martin was to build a 1,024 square foot building in the exact same space that he's planning to build this, he wouldn't need a variance, correct? So this is just for 176 additional square feet?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, if everything's, if he's not asking for a variance from the lot line or anything, that was my only question. I have no issue. There's nothing to dispute from my standpoint.
Okay, great, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else on the phone that's either for or against this appeal? Okay, if there's no further questions for the public, the hearing for variance number 2020-59 is now closed to the public. Can I get a motion to approve variance 2020-59?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion from the board? Any thoughts from anyone? Nothing? No, okay.
I'm in favor. The only thing, he's provided testimony confirming he's gonna remove the other shed. That helps as well. So other than that,
Okay, I don't have anything. Okay, great, so,
I'd just like to comment, if I'm paying taxes on 2 acres, I want the full 2 acres. I have nothing further.
so noted. All right, so the question is on approval of variance 2020-59. Mr. Martin Cruz is requesting a variance from section 15.03A6, table 15.03-1 to allow for construction of accessory building to be 1,200 square feet in lieu of the maximum 1,024 square feet permitted for lots less than 2 acres for the property located at 8485 Painesville Warren Road, current permanent parcel number 08-A-0-0-1-0-0-0-023-0. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Valentic?
Yes.
Mr. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Dines?
Yes.
And Ms. Gerald?
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations, the variance was approved. Back on track, all right. So next is variance number 2020-60. Mr. Jeff Canaz, hopefully that's right, but. Okay, on behalf of the property owner, Colin Farrell is requesting a variance from section 15.03A6, table 15.03-1, to allow for second accessory building on a lot less than 2 acres in size in lieu of the maximum 1 permitted for lots less than 2 acres for the property located at 6445 Tulip Way, current permanent parcel number 08-A-015-E-01-010-0. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
You've been, state your name, your address. and
My name's
confirm
Jeff
the-
Knotts. I live at 6445 Tulip Way, the same address that the variance is on. I'm requesting to add windows and...
You've been sworn in, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm requesting to add windows and doors to an existing 12 by 16 deck that is already got a roof on it, so I can use the building for more than just a summer use. It's on a very unique piece of property right on the creek with waterfalls in the back and a beautiful view. And we're lucky we have such a nice piece of property there, and we'd like to, I think it will increase the value of the property.
So this was just a deck before,
It was
now
it was a deck, covered deck.
covered deck.
With covered deck with 1, 2, 4, well, 8, about 12 posts. It's above the ground. It sits by itself with a roof on it and rails all the way around. I'd just like to fill the holes in with windows.
Okay.
So it's already done.
Yeah, well, 90%.
How'd you get caught? I'm always interested.
Drive by.
It's a public meeting. I have, I don't really think I should say.
Okay.
You don't have to.
No, you don't have
There's-
to. I'm being facetious.
There's no toilet in there, there's no one
No,
sleeping
no,
in
it's not
there.
living
It's-
space.
okay.
It's not living space. We just want to enjoy our property. I'm retiring here, or actually, I'm already retired because of the COVID-19, and I'd like to have some place where I can go, because I'm not going to be going too much farther than my backyard kind of looks like, and enjoy it while we can. And
So you have another accessory building?
I do.
So,
And how,
so
how
that
big is
one's,
that?
that one's 192 square
Okay.
feet, and then
Correct.
he's adding another one that will be another 192 square feet. So it's not a square footage thing, that's what I was looking at, it's just the two
It's going to make
structures.
the whole backyard look like 100% better than just a deck standing there with a roof.
Your neighbors have any problems with this?
I don't want to say.
Did they get noticed, Heather?
Yes, they did.
All the adjacent property owners.
Yes,
across
they
the
all
street
did,
have
yes.
been notified.
Okay.
And we didn't hear back from anyone.
I don't believe any public is on the line right now, but no, I did not receive any comments prior to the hearing.
Yeah.
As to the case.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, you can be seated. Anyone else here speaking for or against this appeal?
I have one other question, I'm sorry. What the other, sounds like you have another shed on your building, right? Or on your property? Is it just a storage shed, or what's the?
Yeah, lawnmower shed.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No?
I've done that a couple times. I apologize.
I'm gonna do it then. I have, can you come back up? I do have one more question. So this will, so I'm trying to just figure out how we can make this work for you. So if we approve it, then what we're doing is allowing you to have two structures, right?
Correct.
And with that, my question is, you know, in the future, when you're gone or you sell the property and someone else comes in or you change your mind, you're always gonna be allowed to have two structures. You know, you're allowed to have two structures, but do you think you need more than the 400 square feet that you have out there? Because right now, the two structures are.
I'm not
roughly-
adding on to it, no.
No, so
No.
you're good with the 400 square
No,
feet?
that's it. Nothing's getting added on the back of it. It's gonna be just the way it is right now. It's just gonna have be enclosed, so I can use it till November and start using it in March, and about 3 months, 9 months out of the year instead of 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm not saying we have to do this, but would you be opposed? So he can build up to 1,024 square feet in two buildings, right? But he only has 400? Am I understanding that correctly, Heather? For the structures?
If the variance
Yeah, if we were to approve this, and he's allowed to have 2 structures on his property, my question is, if we approve 2 structures, can they each get up to 1,024 square feet? Or is it limited to 1,024 square feet because he's under the 2 acres?
I mean, if he wanted to add on.
Yeah, if you
to
wanted
one
to
of them.
add on. I'm just thinking, like, I know why he's here and I understand what you're trying to do. I'm just thinking in the future, should there be a limitation? And if, maybe we don't need one, maybe it's just, it stops at 1,024 square feet. I just would think that, I don't know if we want to have 2 giant buildings out there at some point.
Stephanie, are you back on the line, Stephanie?
Am I overthinking this?
You're overthinking.
Yeah.
I think,
I think if you want, you can simply, we could make the approval contingent upon no further, no additions or anything else, remaining at the current square footage to allow
I'm
right,
just
like
throwing-
accessory.
right, I was gonna.
If you guys think that's warranted, I'm just throwing that out there.
That you condition that the second building that you approved tonight doesn't exceed the 192 square feet. Right, that's what he's asking.
If
Essentially.
If the board thinks it's worth putting that condition on there, I don't wanna be the,
I think it is. No, I'll just throw in my 2 cents.
Just
I think
limiting
that
it.
stipulation is warranted.
Brandon or.
Oh, I don't know that we should go there, but
Are we gonna look into the future of every
I'm-
variance request? I mean, it could get ridiculous. I guess that's my word of the night. I'm sorry about that, but it is what it is.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, the idea is, if we're allowing this, and he's confirmed to us via testimony, he's not gonna add on to it, it's just simply a stipulation of, like, we stipulated various approvals of things, and they're gonna mound the yard, we'll give you the right of, we'll give you that easement, but you're gonna put a mound up. So I understand what you're saying, you're simply saying that, okay, we'll allow it, but then you can't simply add 1,000 square feet onto the thing, and then your neighbors, you're already in a riparian, you've already had a variance for that. So if that's what you're suggesting, in order to keep it as it is, and he's provided testimony, that's what he's gonna do, I don't see it being an issue. I mean, we're not overstepping our bounds, and you're simply verifying what he's told you, if that's your intent.
Yeah.
sounds like somebody's keeping an eye on him, so I don't think they'll get too far.
Yeah. That's for
Apparently.
sure.
So, I don't know, I'm hearing mixed, do we wanna add that as a board? I would feel comfortable.
I mean, if that's what it's gonna take to get it approved.
Right.
I'll go along with it.
Brendan, do you feel strongly either way?
Mr. Chairman, if you make a motion, I'd be more than happy to second your motion for that variance with that condition attached to it. For further discussion amongst the board, if the board were all finding that to be in their approval, I would
Wrap it up.
likely agree.
Okay. So, alright, so, I'm gonna entertain a motion for approval for variance 2020-60.
Yvonne,
Oh.
was there any public?
Yeah.
We closed
Um,
that meeting.
Is there anyone else on the phone that would like to speak for or against this appeal? No, okay. So again, I'm gonna add, Blair, what you thought we should add that, a restriction to the square
I did,
footage?
yes.
That the current structure that he's getting the variance for will maintain 192 square
Correct.
feet?
Right.
Okay. Alright, so I will entertain a motion for variance number 2020-60, requesting a variance from section 15.03A6 and tables 15.03-1 to allow for a second accessory building on a lot less than 2 acres in size in lieu of the maximum 1 permitted for lots less than 2 acres for the property located on 6445 Tulip Way, with the condition that the structure does not increase in square footage from the current 192 square feet. Can I get a motion?
I move to take the variance 2020-60 as stated by Chairman Valentic
Second?
with the condition attached thereto.
Second.
Second, okay. All right, any further discussion from the board? If No? All right, for, the next is on approval of variance number 2020-60. Heather, please call the vote.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Dines?
Yes.
Ms. Gerald?
Yes.
Mr. Hamilton?
Yes.
And Mr. Valente?
Yes, your variance has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you,
all set
sir.
then?
Thank you.
You're all
Yep.
set, sir. Have a good evening. All right, next is variance 2020-61. Mr. Richard Summers of Lily Farms LLC is requesting a variance from section 15.04A2D and section 15.04B, table 15.04-1, allow for an existing dwelling to be located 43 feet from the proposed Lily Lane road right away in lieu of the 50 feet required for the property located on 12395 Winchell Road, current parcel, permanent parcel number 08-A-002-000-00-008-0.
I need to briefly state, Mr. Chairman, that Mr. Summers, I know is a client of my firm and one of my partners, Dale Markowitz, not involved in this matter, but it's incumbent upon me to let everyone be aware of that. Mr. Summers would rather recuse myself, or anybody from the board or the public prefers I recuse myself from this. I'm happy to do so. I would submit to all of you I can be impartial in listening to this appeal, absent anybody else's feelings otherwise.
I don't have any objection.
No objection.
I have no issues.
No objection.
Okay, great.
Richard Summers, 10585 Somerset Drive, Chardon, and I have been sworn.
Thank you, sir.
Brief history, we're the owner of a property located at 12395 Winchell Road. We purchased this property, it's approximately 30 acres. We have an approved plan for an RCD subdivision consisting of 24 lots and 4 outlots on Winchell Road in the R4 district. These plans have all been approved by Lake County Planning and the Concord Township. During the final plat review process, it was discovered that the house is not 50 feet from the new right-of-way as required under the Concord Township zoning code that was referenced above. We're asking for a 3-foot variance on the front corner and a 7-foot variance on the rear corner. And this, I would note, is to the right-of-way line. This home would actually be 65 and 61 feet from the edge of pavement. The basis of our variance, I believe we meet all the conditions as set forth in Duncan. It's an unnecessary hardship. It was not caused by anybody intentionally. It was nobody knew about it. Everybody missed it, basically. We didn't have knowledge until March 22nd, 2020. The problem can't be solved by any reasonable manner other than granting of this variance. There's no substantial detriment to the neighborhood as it doesn't affect any other houses. There's a open space in the RVG neighborhood behind the house. It will not adversely affect the delivery of any government services, which is another condition. Again, it's not substantial, and we don't feel it has any adverse effect on the neighboring properties.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the board?
Very well done. Been here a few
Thank you.
times. Got it down to a science, practically.
Unfortunately, we all missed it, so I don't know how, but we missed it.
Okay, you can be
Thank you.
seated. Anyone on the phone? Okay, is there anyone on the phone that's either for or against this appeal that would like to speak? Okay, if there's no further questions, a public hearing for variance 2020-61 is now closed to the public. I will entertain a motion to approve variance number 2020-61.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion for the board. Anyone have anything? No? Okay. Next is to call a vote for variance number 2020-61. Mr. Summers of Lily Farms LLC is requesting a variance from section 15.04A2D and section 15.04B, table 04-1 allow for an existing dwelling to be located 43 feet from the proposed Lily Lane Road right away in lieu of the 50 feet required. Heather, please call the vote.
Ms. Gerald?
Yes.
Mr. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mr. Valentick?
Yes.
Mr. Dines?
Yes.
And Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Congratulations, it's been approved, thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Chris
I am abstaining.
Abstain. So Blair. With the questions on approval of the minutes from March 11, 2020, a yes vote approves the minutes. Oh, sorry, is there any changes or deletions to the minutes?
No.
You got anything? Okay, sorry. So then the approval of the minutes for March 11, 2020, a yes vote approves the minutes, no vote denies it. Please, all in favor of the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the minutes have been approved. Okay, so our next meeting is June 10th. Hopefully we'll be here again. But the Concord Township Board, May 2020 Board of Zoning Appeals is now closed.